I think we're live.
And we are live. Come on. There we go.
Ow.
That's what I'm talking about. Get you kind of warm and tingly inside. All right. We are
How is
live.
it going, second rounders? This is once again your friend, Reverend Sergeant Tyler E. Randall. I use both my titles for pomp and circumstance only. And as always, we have our immaculate, magnanimous host, Michael Turpin.
Amen. The weekly rounders coming in hot, watching the midterms and watching them real time right now. Unfortunately, for all the New Yorkers, the Western New Yorkers, and the people that love freedom, we have some bad news. We lost the New York governor race. Kathy Hochul stuffed more ballots than Lee Zeldin.
Hopefully, there's not enough. You guys don't do runoffs or what? No, it's not that close.
4.7 million votes to 1.8 million. 99% are in.
There's no freaking way, man. Yeah. There is no way.
It is what it is.
All Zeldin did was run on crime, which is all he had to do. And he was showing like New York Times was saying like, oh, she's up by 10 points. But in reality, it was more like 1 or 2. Trafalgar had them very, very close. And to see that big of a shift, and Trafalgar has been probably the best in the last 2 elections, as far as telling people when it's going to be close and then, not letting all the polls go crazy. But that is insane that she won by a margin of 3 times what he pulled in.
Disappointing.
I cannot believe it.
Double. Yep.
So overall, and since we're talking about the midterm elections, overall right now, Senate results, we have 39 Republicans, 39 Democrats, and that's with the states of Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, North and South Dakota, all going for Republicans. And obviously like Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York, Virginia, and New Hampshire. And what's the other one right next to it? I don't know the shape. Connecticut, all going for Democrats, as well as Georgia. They're showing Georgia already calling it for Warnock.
What?
There's no way.
Yeah, no way.
So it's showing Raphael Warnock 51.51%, Herschel Walker at 46.71%, and Chase Oliver, the Libertarian, which what do we talk about? Oh, I talked about this with my friend Adrian in the Tavern Talk podcast, that they take that 1.78% away from basically from everybody, right?
Yeah, and you're on Epic Times, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at Epic Times.
So Epic Times, unless you have votes in estimated 65%.
Well, it's 65. Oh, so they're showing it blue as we speak, but it's not necessarily. Okay, so House right now it's leaning +3 seats for Republicans and -2 for the Democrats, which is great. Which is what we want to see. And since I didn't give any salutations, this is actually a joint stream. We are in the studio live streaming directly to second round. I forget what the name is. It's not second round, is it? Second round?
Weekly round. Yep,
Weekly round, excuse me. Weekly round and the tavern. And in the tavern we drink, which is always my salutation. A little bit of whiskey. A little bit of Shiner Cheer. What do you think? Best beer in the world? Best beer in the world, Shiner Cheer, I think.
Shiner Bock. So when I was in Iraq in 2003, coming back, we stopped in Portugal, McDonald's, Shiner Bock at McDonald's, drinking Shiner Bock at McDonald's. I was like, I don't know, 22, 23. I was like, beer at McDonald's? Sign me up.
What is this? What is this? Pulp Fiction? You're like, I'm not talking about no paper cup. I'm talking a glass of beer.
A glass of beer, man. Oh, that was great. It knocked me out, man.
Okay, so we're looking. I'm trying to find the governor results as we speak, and Epic Times is killing me right now. They got the Arizona watch party. So a little bit of news to update everybody in case it just happened just maybe in the last hour or two. In Maricopa County in Arizona, they're turning people away because apparently the voting machines just stopped working. And they're telling people not to record, for electioneering purposes. But then at the same time, so now Now they're telling people, just go away. And President Trump even recorded a video and gave it to what's her name? It's so hard to keep up with everybody's name. She's that Kathy. Shoot, I swear. I'm gonna think about it when I don't need to know it. But basically, the Republican candidate down there for governor in Arizona, she got a message from Trump telling people, don't go away, stay in line. They have to let you vote. This is a tactic. This is what they're doing. And what was the name of that county in Pennsylvania where they ran out of paper? So they let the polls be open for another 2 hours so they could bust some people in, maybe.
As per the Daily Wire, that was Luzerne County, ironically.
Luzerne, not Lutheran.
But Luzerne County. Yep. PA judge extends voting hours in Luzerne County due to paper shortage. As per the Daily Wire, Dylan Burrows. Get my tongue; it's all sorts of tied.
Kerry Lake in Arizona. Kerry Lake.
Yeah. It's either, in my book, it's Kerry Lake with DeSantis or what's her schnutz from Hawaii that just
Tulsi. I think Tulsi is actually throwing her hat in the ring more as a VP. That's what I think. That is a gigantic red Solo cup, dude. Holy crap.
I roll, baby. That's how I roll.
So let's take a look at the comments really quick. I got my buddy Timothy Dimmick coming in. Talking about let's see what he has to say. Mayonnaise. They drench it. They drench everything in mayonnaise. Tim, always good for a laugh. It's good to see you, my friend. See, he's talking to us on Facebook over here.
Nice.
So Kerry Lake, honestly, let's talk about that really quick. So not only are they trying to shut her down in Maricopa, because if you remember in the last election, they said that there was like an 8-point lead and we should just call it. And then 2 weeks later, once they started disqualifying illegal votes and started actually counting the real votes, it turns out that the Trump lost only by like a 0.03%. So there is a big Republican representation there in Maricopa County. It's the reddest part of the state, apparently. And for the voting machines to just magically go down, that's what paper ballots are for. Okay.
Right.
And
exactly.
two things. Kerry Lake got the blessing from Trump. She was polling into nothing. The Libertarian candidate was actually polling higher than her at one point. Once Trump gave the ominous dominus, bam, it just takes off like a rocket. She starts getting some of that PAC money, and she has that tenacity. She has that charisma. She's been on TV for, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. But you could see there's actually a leaked video of her on that news channel that she used to work on there locally in Arizona. And they were talking something about, the new Phoenix Times or whatever. It's like some free rag that hippies use to line, the bottoms of their tents. And so she's caught on hot mic being like, oh, that's just for people who want to smoke weed. That's a stupid paper. They know what they're effing talking about, and she's just on point. So she was based even when she was a Democrat. So much like Trump, lifelong Democrat, was like, you know what, this is kind of dumb, but also seeing that the winds are changing and that their positions now are viewed as right-wing when they never moved, even though they were on the left. You see what I'm saying? You see all these guys. JD Vance is like super up in Ohio right now. Excuse me, in Ohio. Let's if they'll let me click on it, I'm going to click on that Ohio. Here we go. JD Vance, 50% to 49% of Tim Ryan, estimated 46%. But if we look at the way that's 1,096,000 for JD and 1,060,000 for Tim Ryan. He was up in all of the polls. JD Vance was by 5, 6, 7 points in some of them. So this goes to show you it's the Trump blessing, right? The Trump blessing is what fuels your campaign. 100%. And now I know I've been talking for like 2 minutes straight, but I do want to go back since we're talking about the Trump blessing. I want to talk about Dr. Oz. Nobody was more upset about Dr. Oz getting the blessing than me, because there was so many, in my view, so many more candidates that were more well-suited, more constitutional, because Dr. Oz, another one of those guys, is kind of a lefty, right? He's a little bit left to center.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to Trump, he is not an ideologue. He does not have an ideology. He is all about him, right? Let's just be real with it. Trump is about himself. Trump's about the Trump brand. Trump's about Trump.
It's the truth.
And winning is what Trump is about. So he knows to pick a winner. He says, yes, this guy might be better policy-wise. But as far as getting a seat and somebody who's going to be thankful that I got him a seat, Dr. Oz is your man.
Oh,
he's a yes man. He was Oprah's yes man for 8 years, you know.
Oh yeah. I remember when I kind of didn't like Oz, and whenever he rolled into get into politics, I was like, wait a minute, time out. What are we doing? What are we thinking? Why is this something that we should be involved in, Mr. Oz? And so because of Oprah, I don't trust that woman. She's part of the elite demigod that's over there.
I think the word is cabal. I think that's the correct word.
Well, what I wanted to say, she was an Epstein Island, frequent. So,
oh my God, have you ever seen that picture of her with like Harvey Weinstein, and she's bringing over like Brie Larson, and like Harvey's like, and Oprah's holding her hand like, this is the way you want to be a star, don't you?
Oh yeah, this is gonna happen.
Like Family Guy, remember his like Minnie Mouse and Walt Disney standing behind the pencil table. He's like, you want to be a star, don't you? She's like, that's exactly what all that stuff is about, man. It's insane. Man, I keep looking at all these well, I mean, obviously we everybody wants to go back to Georgia, everybody wants to go back to Florida. I'm actually a little bit more interested in Illinois in the Senate.
I was checking that out myself, in the Senate. You're looking at the Senate. Tammy Duckworth, she's got 500,000 votes. Kathy Salvi,
yeah.
She's got a little over 300,000 votes. 16% of the votes are in. You got
and then once again, the Libertarian candidate, Bill Redpath, taking 1.4% of the vote. Yeah, I know it's not going to help Salvi at this point, but there's only 16% of the votes in. It's gonna come down to that margin. Tammy Duckworth, if I'm not mistaken, she's a veteran, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, but she's probably the dumbest person in the Senate.
I don't know. I mean, if Schumer was in the Senate, Schumer is in the Senate, is he? Yeah, Schumer is in the Senate. Schumer's the dumbest person in the Senate by far. That guy is a rock. He's a rock.
Let's talk about dumb. Like when we say dumb, do we mean like Machiavellian dumb, where they're just like playing dumb? They're like, oh, I don't understand what is. I don't understand what a woman means. Like they're playing an ideological game, or are we talking about truly like, I'm not sure how you breathe and tie your shoes at the same time?
No, Schumer he's a puppet. Anytime that you want to talk politics, you want to talk, those people, Schumer's a puppet, and he's played that card for many years now. He has his niece is once again Amy Schumer, who's
Schumer's.
Amy Schumer is his niece. She is a morale mattress passed around Hollywood. How long now?
Didn't she marry an autistic guy?
Isn't she autistic? I mean,
not to bash anybody that has autism, but I'm just saying like that seems like taking advantage, because I've seen him in interviews and I'm like, oh, you're not all there, buddy. Okay, all right.
Oh, that's 100%. No, my son's autistic, and my son. There's many times I look at my son and I say, listen, you need to knock that shit off, because I know that you know what I'm saying. I get it. I know you do. You need to knock it off. You have all these people fooled. You're a lot sharper than you let people in on.
Like, I know you can turn that shit off for a minute.
Yeah.
If you need to, you can turn it off.
I know you can.
You know what? I don't know if you use this euphemism or not, but you could always say, hey man, tone down the tism. Just tone down the tism. Just a little bit.
So we got another popular, run in Iowa Senate. Chuck Grassley, 9,800 votes. Michael Franken.
Please don't tell me that's Al Franken's like grandson or something stupid.
Probably. I want that.
51% to 48%. I mean,
we got 2% in. So,
but hey, what? Oh, that's because the time is changing. Oh, wow. See, I just figured out how the sun works. So, like right now in the central time zone, it's 8:49. It's 9:49 where you're at in New York, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Okay. So that means it's like, I don't know. No, I was in the central time zone.
I was in central. That's right.
What time are their polls going to close?
Oh.
Since we're talking about elections, I want to talk about why up until 5 seconds ago, we could get all of the votes counted in one night. Like, especially with machines. You know what I mean?
It's funny because across the United States, we all think the same. And my latest podcast I had on that I was kind of late jumping into this. I had a guy on, and he brought up a very good point. And it's something that I think even me and you talked about. You have 5% of one extreme, then you have 5% of another extreme. Then you pretty much have everyone in between that just wants family, pay the bills, raise the kids with a normal, sense of understanding. But, we have this insanity throughout our whole entire country, and it's dividing us, and it's making us all freaking bonkers. So the governor race in Michigan, that's something that we're watching. We feel bad because Detroit shoots themselves nonstop every weekend.
I can't even get that to come up.
Gretchen Whitmer is a nut house.
Is she ahead? Is she ahead right now? Because I can't even see it.
Honestly, okay, so 8% of the votes are in, and she's only up by 60,000 votes. So that's good news right there.
Well, let's see. Brian Kemp, DeSantis, Rubio all win re-election. Okay. So we're picking up seats. Right. Yeah, Maricopa. Okay, we got an update just now, probably a couple minutes ago. Maricopa election official Bill Gates. No way that the election official's name is Bill Gates. Okay. Well, hey, tell me why the computers went down. You know what I'm saying? He told reporters that no one was disenfranchised today. That's a quote. At a press conference after the election machines in the county malfunctioned earlier today. He added that 95 to 99% of the ballots would likely be counted by Friday. It is Tuesday, my friend. Jeez. Goodness gracious. So, yeah, Brian Kemp, he will defeat Stacey Abrams. They're calling that governor's race. That's the Decision HQ desk that's reporting that. She's still not conceded the 2018 gubernatorial race that she lost. She still says it was stolen from her.
Ever since that out there. It's funny how she talks out of both sides of her mouth on this whole entire thing. One says, hey, you know what? If you deny the 2020 election, you're an election denier. You're the worst thing in democracy. And then the other side, hey, I never lost. I never seceded to Brian Kemp in 2018. So there's that.
Yeah, you never have to. Just because you don't say you took an L doesn't mean you didn't take the L. You know what I mean?
She took the L, all right. Did you see she was the president in that they did that reboot of Star Wars, or not Star Wars, Star Trek, and she was the president of the galaxy or something like that. It's like
she was the president of the Federation of Planets. Okay, first of all, get your nerd stuff right. Sorry. And garbage TV show, by the way. I am a Star Trek fanatic. Like right. I have a Star Trek badge within reach right here. Like I can see it. Where is it? It's right here. I always have it on my desk. I'm not. There it is. I have a Star Trek badge within reach. This is TOS. This is the J.J. Abrams style one, which not everybody likes it. I have a TNG badge downstairs. I also have the Terran Empire badge, which I love the Terran Empire because screw everybody else. I'm very anti-Federation. I'm a extremist, as they say. But let's stop talking nerd stuff because I think YouTube's going limp at the moment.
So here's the thing: you're not nerd when it comes to Star Trek unless you can you can speak Klingon. If you can speak Klingon, then you've crossed the line. If you
Oh no! When I was 10 years old, I could speak conversational Klingon.
Oh,
I had the dictionary and everything, and honestly, the way that it's very similar to Farsi in the way that you conjugate and inflect. Like inflection has a lot to do with it, so it's a little bit like Mandarin. The only phrase that I can off the top of my head remember at 35 years old is from, I believe, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, when Chang quotes Shakespeare and he says, "Tach bach, tach bech, and let slip the dogs of war."
Oh my gosh.
Yes, General Chang has been spoken.
All right, you just repudiated everything that I was trying to say about you.
Yeah, you're right. I am a nerd. We have a comment from Facebook from my very good friend Andrew Clayton. He was in the, I believe he was in. Correct me, Andrew, in the comments if you were in the you were in the RAF. He was an engineer in the RAF, and he says, "What's the big deal with waiting until Friday to complete the AZ count? If they don't take their seats until the new year, what's the rush to get it all done until election day? Surely, instances such as this, accuracy is of paramount importance?" ? And so, he does live in Arizona, by the way.
I give him credit. He's exactly right. But dramatic pause for effect. In our constitutional democracy, we deserve and we're completely capable of having all of our elections done and complete in one night. We've done it for a very long time, and it's
a couple hundred years.
Completely capable of being accomplished in one night. But I do give you credit because that is, it's a very good question. There's no reason, really.
And he says, British Army, you dumb Marine.
Yeah, no, that's probably the perfect response to that.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize. But yeah, and Andrew, I've known him for quite a long time. Him and my wife and his wife go way back.
Cool.
I've had him out all the way to Texas before. Oh golly, howdy. Still waiting for you to visit here in Tennessee. I'm just saying.
I love Tennessee, by the way. Tennessee is amazing.
Oh man, and another Facebook comment really quick, just to touch on the Star Trek. My good friend Jerry Collis down in Texas. He said, "Got here just in time to hear a crap Chang impersonation, and my mind shut down for a moment."
Nice.
Hey, Star Trek is everywhere, bro. I'm just saying, Mike. I'm just saying.
It is. And that's why, that's why I pushed the Klingon comment, because that's just how it works.
So we see here about 20 minutes ago, Republican Representative Ted Budd has taken the lead against Democrat Sherry Beasley in the Senate race in North Carolina with 2/3 of the vote. So that's according to Decision HQ. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be the next governor of Arkansas.
Oh,
all right.
Cool.
Mike Huckabee lives just like down and around the corner from me, and his studio is, well, he might not live there, but his studio is legitimately like a mile away from here.
Cool.
Have you ever seen his Huckabee show?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yep.
So you can go and watch a taping of it for free as long as you just show up. Like you show up, you have to go. I got to meet the governor. It was very nice. He shook my hand, took a picture with him. I actually have a Huckabee hat hanging on the wall. He signed it for me. It was pretty cool.
Oh, awesome. Good deal. So the running numbers for currently, we have we're tied in the Senate 39-39 and House 127-86. 127-86. Well, Louisiana is a big problem nowadays. They discovered guns, and when they discovered them, they started shooting.
I don't think it's that they discovered guns. I think that's that it was Democrat policies that. By the way, speaking of Louisiana, because this fits into the whole like crime being a voting block narrative, when the Washington Post is citing statistics on crime, and Kathy Hochul goes on and says, "Oh my gosh, these guys are talking about crime like it's a real thing, like it's happening. Crime is down and all across the nation." It's like, yeah, if you omit the 4 largest population centers, one of them being New Orleans, which is number 1 in murder.
Exactly right.
It's all sophistry. Anytime you hear somebody say crime is down or that's not correct, I read it in here. Like, go look at the raw numbers on the FBI. The FBI puts them up there. You can just click murder and it shows you where the murders are happening, what's happening. So you're saying Louisiana's in a problem. Is that because the Democrats are winning currently?
So I actually did a podcast on this. I actually did a campaign of 5 podcasts on weapons of war and what they truly are. And so a true weapon of war, we'll take the 249 saw, for example.
Okay. Squad automatic weapon for the unindoctrinated.
Squad automatic weapon weighs about 20 pounds, give or take, shoots 300 rounds a minute, right? So it shoots 300 rounds a minute. You have to have a gunner sitting next to you that changes your barrel every 3 minutes because you'll melt the thing, right?
Yeah, anyway, cyclic, yeah.
So getting into the numbers. So this is a saw is a true weapon of war. It shoots, once again, 300 rounds a minute. You can hit targets at 500 to 600 yards. It is a true weapon of war. AR-15, completely separate, completely different numbers. 50 to 55 rounds a minute. And if we'll say 90-95% of the country is not putting round on target at 90 or at 50 to 55 rounds a minute. I'm just saying, even me, I've shot it my whole entire life. I am not putting a large percentage of those 55 rounds on target.
Well, are you talking area target or point target? Because the saw is good at area all the way up until 500, but point it's most accurate at 300, and that's pretty much where the AR and the M4 land is right around 300 yards for point targets, which is human subjects. Area targets are something like buildings, windows, vehicles, things like that.
And that's a perfect way of explaining, the different targets that we do have when we are sighting it. What I mean is General Joe Schmo picks up this rifle in downtown, wherever the schmutz, and starts throwing rounds downrange. How accurate they're going to be?
Well, it depends. And I know I'm going to get into the weapons nerd stuff, but first of all, AK is way easier. Super easy. Now you're going to have your point target accuracy going to be completely diminished by that giant heavy round. So you're going to only be accurate up to about 100, 150 yards in the standing. Now you pick up an AR-15 and it's got like stock iron sights. People don't know how to use iron sights. They don't know that you have to have a clear sight picture and that you have to have the front side post completely centered in that reticle. You know what I mean? Like in the aperture, excuse me, not the reticle. Yep. If it has a red dot, I mean, do they know how to turn it on? These are all these questions that you want to start like actually drilling into whether or not something is a weapon of war. It's like, hey, we carried them around. I carried around an M16A2 in Iraq. I had that old giant, long, huge rifle. Everybody else had the tiny M4s. And I loved it, by the way. I just like the way it feels. But that thing had what's called a 3-round burst. You have a fire selector switch that you can hit with your right thumb because left-handed people are the devil. And you can select safe, which means when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. You can select semi, which means one trigger pull, one bullet, and then it resets. And then you can select semi, where most of the time, and I say most of the time, with one trigger pull, you get 3 rounds. Sometimes you get 2, sometimes you get 1. Depends on how hot it is. It depends on how clean your gas tube is, truthfully. I'm sorry, you picked a subject that I just like. I'm a rifle instructor. That's what I do.
No, you're filling in the blanks because I was never a rifle instructor. I just know enough to be dangerous, which tough enough. I just know enough to be dangerous, and that's why I'm just dangerous. So the whole point was in the weapons of war conversation, you got clowns that love in politics, love jumping on and saying whatever comes out of their mouth. Never picked up a firearm in their life, but are the ones making policy, that will say an AR-15 is a weapon of war. Oh my gosh. I tell you, the hair jumps off my back every time I hear that. If
I was in the Senate, I would be like, this is what I would say. I would be like, so is a Roman short sword a weapon of war? And they would go, what do you mean? Like, well, I don't know. It's the most prolific, probably the most prolific weapon in the history of war was probably the Roman short sword. It probably killed more people than an AR-15 ever did or probably will.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. So it depends on what you want to talk. The left and the Democrats specifically love to use euphemism where conservatives want to know, what do you mean by that? Which is why it's so darn hard for them to define things like what a woman is, or, what a weapon of war is, or what a legitimate ballot is. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. So, defining terms.
Defining terms, like you have to define your terms and you have to agree on a premise, and that is the only way that you can even have what's called a conversation. So Andrew and I, we butt heads a lot, but we drill down. And Andrew likes to say, okay, so if this then, and I say, well, no, this, and he goes, okay, so we can agree on this premise, and then from there we're off to the races. So we might not agree on how we get there, but that's why we can have great conversations, because we agree on the foundational principles of what the discussion is about. If you could tell somebody, oh, it's a weapon of war, and you go, what do you mean by that? And they go, I don't know. Then you go, okay, well, I can educate you, or you can just turn it off, and then we can't have a conversation about it. But that's what I think, and this is my personal opinion, that's what when I say they, you know who I mean, they want, the people in charge, the mucky mucks.
The key is, and this is big, right? The key is dialogue. If you cannot have dialogue, you aren't going to have growth, right? Dialogue, it's funny because dialogue is everything, right? In any relationship, if I just met you, we need dialogue to be human beings. If I have a wife, I need dialogue to be human beings and grow. Any relationship, you need to give a little bit to get a little bit. So in the case where there is no dialogue, no, you know what? I don't know what a woman is. And you see people with brains are like, what do you mean you don't know what a woman is?
Yeah.
You got to be able to, it's asinine that you can't even define the basic stuff. We have to be able to have a conversation, and you can't even define the basics. We're running into a brick wall, and we're smashing our head against the wall, and we're expecting different results. I think they came up with a definition of that at one point.
Insanity. I believe that's what Einstein said insanity was. It's paramount. Communication, being able to communicate. It just reminds me of. I get so flabbergasted. I tell you what, I just get so, because even if you wanted to tell somebody something, and you had all the sincerity in the world, look at, for example, Matt Walsh was on, and we're just going into the political portion of this. Matt Walsh was recently on Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast in the world, right? They were there to talk about his documentary, What is a Woman? At the first hour, Joe Rogan is 100% on his side.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he starts talking about, oh, well, what do you mean by you only like traditional marriage? And he goes, well, and Matt Walsh is smart, because he's not going to back himself into a corner or play the what if game, or, try to say, well, in this extremely specific circumstance, what would you do? He goes, no, it's like marriage is a man and a woman. And that was his position. And Joe's like, well, what if it was a one person? I mean, it's just a choice. And he's like, well, now you're saying marriage doesn't mean anything. He goes, no, it's a choice. He's like, so you're just saying that it's like a subjective kind of choice, happenstance, something that we do legally that has no biological imperative to it whatsoever. And we're not even getting into the spiritual part of it yet. And Joe's just like, yeah, it's just a subjective thing. It's like, well, it's just when you love someone. It's like, no, marriage is a little bit more than love. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's like marriage is a partnership. It's work. It's also life. It's something that you can't quite define, but it has a soul, if you will. There's something to it that's unexplainable, that if you try to say, well, it's just marriage. And when you say that, most people go, I know what that means. I know exactly what that means. But when you say, no, it's just a subjective agreement legally between two people who say they love each other for right now. It's like, whoa, that means nothing. That means you think it means nothing. So
it's a word sandwich,
Exactly, word sandwich. That was the nail I was trying to drive home. Is like when you were talking about when people can't agree on what things are, what things mean, we're in a real bad way. Real bad way.
Maryland Senate General called Chris Van Hollen. I don't think that was up for grabs, really. I don't think that was a toss-up. 4% in. Votes counted 92,000. They called it for Chris Van Hollen. 73,000 votes. Chris Chaffee had 19,000.
I can only get the Senate to come up in Epoch Times.
Really?
Yeah. But that's okay.
We've been having. Yeah.
We were hacked. We were hacked, you guys. It was the Russians. It was the Russians.
Badinga boop. All right. So back up there. We've had the Georgia Senate for Warnock and Herschel Walker. It's been at 65% for the past good while now. So either they found a whole bunch of votes in box trucks and they're stuffing them into
in a cooler underneath the table, and then a pipe burst. Remember that? Oh my gosh!
Pipe burst. Oh my god!
Anything on Oz? Do we have anything on Oz?
Nope. It's still, I think it's 18%. Yeah, 16%. 16% on Oz. Still, it's been the same for a while.
This is really testing my geography skills. There we go. Holy moly! Look at how many other candidates there are. You got a Libertarian candidate, a Green Party candidate, and then an other.
Mm-hmm.
What's an other? Is it the Nazi Party? What's going on?
I think that is the party of the left because they can't really identify with anything, so they just call them the other. Honestly, and answer me something, and you tell me what you think. Don't you think some of these random are generated by the extremists to take votes away from the people that are gonna vote for their opponent?
I think de facto that's what happens. I mean, we know that, and that's the largest complaint of the third party. Here's the biggest problem with libertarians, and I know this sounds kind of like a neocon answer, but which I'm not. But they can't raise money. Do you know how much money it would cost to start a legitimate party that would actually have the weight to run and actually compete with the Democrats and Republicans? Take about $3.5 billion to set up the infrastructure needed in order to have a campaign, have the offices, have all of the arms, all the PACs, all the things that we've come to now know in modern politics that before, like we were talking about last time, like people didn't talk about politics. They didn't talk about religion. They didn't talk about politics. It was uncouth. It wasn't polite. But now it's like everybody's kind of tuned into it. It's almost like it's becoming entertainment in a way. I mean, kind of what we're doing it for entertainment value. We're entertaining ourselves, but also there is a serious undertone to it.
Absolutely.
But as people become aware, that's kind of like the way you need to reach out to them. So in order for them to get to a place where they can actually compete, it would take a mass amount of money. It would take George Soros giving all of his money to the Libertarian Party. The problem is they're so fractured, and there are so many sects of libertarianism that you can't say, because the Libertarian Party got taken over by the left a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
And so every time a new one pops up, like look at Gary Johnson. Why would you put that guy in front of an NBC camera? I'm just saying, why would you do that? Like, if you spend 5 minutes with him alone, you'd be like, oh man, we messed up. Hey guys. So, and then all the other ones, you go to the convention and you get like the guy with the boot on his head that wants to give everybody a unicorn, Lord Rat Trap or whatever his name is. It's like they, to an extent, and they respect the joke. They're like, no, we respect the joke. It's like I'm a meme. I'm a meme lord myself. You know what I mean? I'm a lord of memes. I enjoy a good laugh. I enjoy a good troll, right? But it not in my politics, like not in the mainstream, like serious portion of the politics. Not at my convention. Don't bring that. Don't bring that noise. That's what I'm saying. So these libertarians, a lot, they always talk about like the non-aggression principle. Oh, the non-aggression principle. Here we go. As long as you don't touch me and I don't touch you, we can do whatever we want. It's like, no, that's not what we've ever been about. You know what I mean? Liberty is not itself licentiousness. Mm-hmm. It does not mean you can do whatever you want. It's to be free to do the thing that you ought to do. And what you ought to do is be moral and be good. And, you know, and those kind of things kind of get lost. Like, I know a lot of people want to try to add religion to that. And as to me personally, there is a religious aspect to that. But if you want to secularize it, you know, for the masses, to do what you ought to means you have to have discipline to not just do what you want to do. And that's the problem with the Libertarian Party at its core, is they are, I want to do, me, my, selfish, not, hey, maybe we should help people. You know what I mean? Maybe you should, but then the Democrats take that to a whole nother level and they say, no, I'm going to force you to help these people because they vote for me. And it's like, and conservatives go, I help these people anyway because they live in my neighborhood, and you guys won't vote for me because of what? Mean tweets? You know what I mean? Like, these are the kind of things that we're trying to sway the argument and try to make a plea to people. It's like, hey, maybe conservatives are not the people you thought they were, or who the TV people told you they were. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's my libertarian rant. Sorry.
No, I mean, you're spot on though. You know, it's funny because that's how it ends up panning out. You know, and the only people that suffer are not the 5% extreme on one side or the 5% extreme on the other side. It's all the people in the middle wanting jobs, wanting their kids to be safe, and just wanting their property and their cars and everything in between. That's really the only people that pay, you know.
Property rights are the cornerstone of human rights, period. Mm-hmm. Now, that sounds like a very libertarian thing to say, but that's just actually borne out by the founding fathers. Now, isn't it weird how all of the things that the anti-federalists said would happen happened, except it didn't happen for a really, really long time. It wasn't really accelerated until the 60s and 70s. And then we kind of had a return to form in the 80s. And then in the late 90s, it was kind of like you couldn't tell the difference between the parties. And then after the Iraq War, it really ramped up. And it became super hyper-partisan and really, really pro-war on both sides. And now it's kind of a point where, like, I don't like all Republicans. I really don't. I think Mitch McConnell is probably worse than worst. I wish that turtle would get voted out of office. We've come to a point where, like, the anti-federalists said, hey, there's going to be so much power consolidated that they could never see the administrative state coming. Like, they never saw that coming, but they knew that as soon as one spot in the country, DC, had all the power and that they could vote themselves money, that it would happen. So you see, I talked about this last time, 17th Amendment took away all of the people's power to vote for their senators. Oh, I get to vote for my senator. Yeah, you do, but it's in a flawed way. And it's not in a checks and balances way. You don't vote for your senator the same way that you vote for your state, your House of Representatives, because that essentially makes those two things the same thing. Mm-hmm. So what do we even have state legislatures for? Oh, I'm not going to go down that path. I'm so sorry. But still, it just, because I said it so much last time. And also we have a comment from Facebook from Jerry Collis. Jerry, I will warn you, Jerry is a little long-winded at times, but he is always very on point. So
my only question, are any of these people have argued with you on Facebook in the past and I've stuck up for you? And
it's hard to remember over all the platforms, but probably Andrew. Me and Andrew, we go back and forth. And on the new one, it seems like Facebook has not kind of kept me out of his feed, because on my last profile, it kept me out of his feed a lot. But now that in the new one, we go back and forth, and then somebody will come in and try to, and then they'll start an argument, and I go, I'm out. You know, I want to play with Andrew. But Jerry and I see eye to eye quite on a lot of things. Let's go ahead and read Jerry's comment, because he's been listening to us pontificate on the issues of the day. And Jerry says, the biggest problem in our country today is that political beliefs have become one of the primary driving forces in the average person's life. The personal is political. You know, that's a very Marxist thing to think. And it's more important than religion, friends, and family for many. It defines the person as such, despite opinions. The whiskey hit hard.
Yeah, it did.
It defines persons. Excuse me, I'm going to get back to the last sentence. It's more important than religion, friends, and family for many. It defines the person as such. Despite opinions on the words and actions of a given politician, people will throw their support or hate based on nothing more than that little letter next to their name. I think that's
exactly right. He nailed it.
He said more succinctly what I was trying to say, because I bloviate. I'm a bigger than life kind of, talker. Thank you,
You
Jerry.
are bigger than life. You are, Tyler. You are bigger than life. As long as I've known you 13 years, 12 years, you are bigger than life. That is 100% true.
Are we old? Are we old now?
Dude, I'm old. I feel it every day. I jumped on the treadmill today. I did 2 miles, and I did 2 miles in a little under 30 minutes, and I sat and laid down for 30 minutes. It was bad. So one thing you said when you were making very good points, Trump didn't have enough money to start his own party. His net worth is in the 3.5 billion range, and he didn't have enough money to do it. And he was an avid, Democrat for a long time, the good kind.
I mean, so yeah, you're right. So if he would have gone, by the way, that's not liquid. A lot of it's in assets.
Yeah.
In net worth, that's what people talk about. Like Mark Zuckerberg, like Meta's stock is crashing, right?
Yeah.
Well, he lost $17 billion or something like that. And it's like, okay, did he lose that? Or no, he lost that in market cap. Like he lost it in the value of his company. He didn't lose that actual amount of money. So Trump is worth, three, whatever heck, how many billion, 2-3 billion. That's not how much cash he has. My guess is he probably has got $1 billion in liquidity, probably that he can move around at any minute if he wanted to, in gold, cash, bonds, assets, things like that he could just like liquefy. But that doesn't mean that his brand isn't worth what it's worth. His golf courses, his hotels, all that.
Totally agree. I totally agree.
I think, hold on. Producers are telling us that we're getting a phone call. And, oh, yeah. No, yeah.
Mr. President?
It is. I think we were waiting on this. It was going to be a surprise. Okay. We weren't going to tell you guys about it, but we had some of our people talk to some staffers that knew that some transgender staffers there at the White House. And it looks like they got us in touch with President Joseph R. Biden. He is on the phone. Oh, Mr. President, it's good to hear from you. Thank you so much for being on. Michael has some pre-approved questions for you. Will you go ahead with those, Michael?
Absolutely. Hello, first off, Mr. President, how you doing today?
And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
I guess, sir. I'm gonna, just jump right into this, sir. Joe, I don't mean to press you, honestly, but why do you keep calling Kamala Harris the president? That's
all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum. She might have something to say about Delaware State. And to my family and friends, the class of 2021, I know the pride you feel for this day as well.
I can't argue with that, Mr. President. Well, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you having on the show and taking the time during the midterms. Mr. President, for my second question, why does your administration jump from one talking point to another when it comes to inflation? It was Trump's fault, then Putin's, then big oil, then it was transitory. How can we just get a straight answer from your administration?
Inflation is a worldwide problem right now because of a war in Iraq and the impact on oil and what Russia's doing. The war in Ukraine. And thinking of Iraq because that's where my son died. Because he died. But the point is that that's why it's up. We have the lowest inflation rate of almost any major country in the world.
Okay. Kind of.
Didn't his son die like in the United States of like a stroke or something?
He sure did. He sure did. Mr. President, I apologize if we confused you in any shape or form. So with this red wave that's happening, we're paying attention to the polls. Unfortunately, we're going to have a little shift in power. You guys aren't going to be able to push everything through the House or the Senate anymore. The Democratic Party will only kind of have power in the executive branch here. So, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get things going. Are you kind of worried about Representative Johnson's investigation in you and your family?
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Whoa, this is
and
a
they put in
family
place
show.
someone who was solid.
Well, I got to say, Mr. President, Representative Johnson is leading by almost 40% in the voting in Wisconsin. So I just want to let you know, just be prepared for some really tough questions. And honestly, I mean, Hunter did some pretty crazy things. Well, you know what, Mr. President, we'll kind of get to that. We'll kind of get to that later. Are you sleeping better now that the Republicans are going to have the House and the Senate, or do we still have people walking you through the White House lawn?
We're between 700 billion and $1,300 billion. I have never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway.
Mr. President, I have to say, and even on my show, I root for you, but that was painful to listen to. Tyler, do you have anything for the president you want to ask?
Listen here, Jack. Listen here, Jack. We got. It looks like we lost him. I think we may have just. Yeah, it looks like we lost the president. Somebody hung up the phone. It looks like somebody hung up the phone on us. One of the staffers got to him.
Most likely, it was press secretary.
Oh, that was crazy. The circle back one or the I'm not going to talk about that one?
Well, I'm just going to go with yes.
Because Jean-Pierre, her tactic is I'm not going to talk about that. Move on.
She is something else, man. Like I'm happy for her position, and I'm happy that she got the opportunities that she had.
No,
but man, like.
Dude, that girl had a silver spoon in her mouth her whole life. She's got more. She's worth more money than you or I will ever see. Also, with the Supreme Court set to overturn affirmative action, God willing, she would never. Somebody like her would never have a job ever again because it would be merit based.
Yeah. Heaven forbid something be merit based.
Oh my gosh!
In the United States, where capitalism strives,
Yeah, mostly capitalism.
Yeah, mostly capitalism.
Let's see if we got any updates here on the old Epic Times election map.
Got JD Vance in the lead by 36,000 votes. Indiana's
awesome.
pulling strong. Todd Young
won. They're calling the winner. 39% of the vote in. Because he's ahead by so much.
Where are you?
on the Indiana State general. He's got such a lead by almost double, excuse me, 60% to 35%, that they're just calling it with only 40% of the vote in.
Perfect.
Which is amazing. Let's look at Kentucky, because I know that's a little talked about. Looks like Rand Paul, obviously, 58 to 41%, talking about getting lapped by Charlie Booker. Only 39% of the vote there as well, but it's an insurmountable deficit to come back from, obviously. We go back to Pennsylvania. Fetterman is still showing 64% to 33% at Oz.
Yeah,
wow, that's
only 15%.
I don't know. Yeah, only 3%. Yeah, because they're going to count till next, Tuesday. December.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's 2024. We're gonna be, excuse me, we're gonna be voting for a president, and they're still gonna be counting ballots in Pennsylvania.
I mean, Alabama, we're showing a win with Katie Britt over Will Boyd, 69 to 28%. Go Alabama. Roll Tide. Roll Tide. That's all I'm saying. Georgia, still looking really good for Herschel Walker, only 65% of the votes in. He's at 46. Raphael Warnock's at 51. Almost everybody that I watched was saying, yeah, this is going to be close, but I take Herschel Walker over, the Raphael Warnock, the pro-abortion pastor, which is very weird. Very, very weird.
He's... I'm getting tongue-tied trying to explain and put some words to some of these people and what they believe in. Once again, man, up is down, left is right, and water is dry. And that's just the best way to explain these people and what they do.
Ted Budd is squeaking out what looked 70% of the vote in North Carolina State General for Senate. And he's at 49.7. Sherry Beasley is at 48.28. So neck and neck, only a 10th percentage point is splitting them. But also we have Shannon Bray with 1.2% from Libertarians and Matthew Huh with 20,000 votes, which is just under 1%. And either one of those groups of people votes for Ted Budd and it's locked up. But no, we have to have weird third parties that don't do anything and have no vision and don't stand for anything. That's the way I feel. These people.
And we got Beto. Dude,
Texas. Isn't his age is showing? That is weird. He's like wearing skinny jeans and he's clearly like way too old to be young.
Talk about it. A guy that's never had a job, married rich. Never had a job, married rich, and just keeps collecting campaign money. Man, that's the job right there, man. Holy smokes. Only in America can you not work, become rich, and just do absolutely nothing, just sit on your rear end. It's funny because there's two things that will automatically make you rich in the United States if you don't work. Number one, if Beto's, little scheme he has going on, or number two, the supply and demand of racism. If you want to get rich in the United States, you pick the supply and demand, the supply of racism, even though there is no supply, but there's just such a huge
lot of demand, huge demand.
Yeah, such a huge demand for racism. Everyone just wants to hate somebody, and it's the easiest way to do it is just say somebody's racist.
We got some more breaking news here coming from Daily Wire. Democrat Michael Bennet will defeat Republican candidate Joe O'Dean in his bid for re-election for the U.S. Senate in Colorado. I don't think that's a big surprise, honestly. Says 538 had previously reported that Bennett's chances of winning the race at 92%, giving the Senate seat a slim tipping point chance. But Bennett was one of the half dozen Senate seats that Republicans were hoping to win, the others being in Nevada, Arizona, New Hampshire, Georgia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and possibly Washington. Also, Democrat Josh Shapiro is going to defeat Republican Doug how do you say this? Mastriano in Pennsylvania in their governor's race. So the governor's mansion stays in the hands of Democrats. That's the way it's going to happen. Maryland voters voted to legalize recreational marijuana. So it is now legal to have up to 1.5 ounces of weed on you in the state of Maryland. Probably going to go on the books in January. Joe Biden made a congratulatory phone call to 7 different Democrats, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who obviously won. And Biden called a lid earlier this morning, meaning he didn't expect to make any further comments for the rest of the day. Lid is that's a journalistic term saying, we're gonna put a lid at 11:35, hard out. It's like having a hard out. Like we have a hard out in like 46 minutes. But it's like we're gonna put a lid on it. We're gonna put a lid.
Mm-hmm.
So we have polls are now closing in Iowa, or they did about 30 minutes ago. Iowa, Montana, Nevada, Utah, and Idaho's District 1 because they're in 2 time zones. And my goodness, that's 1 million people in that one district of Idaho alone. So a little bit of good news: Republican Rudy Yakim, who defeated Paul Suri in the race for Indiana District 2, dedicates his victory to the late Representative Jackie Walorski, who was killed in a car crash early this year. And Joe Biden called out for her about 3 months after she had died. Oh, where's Jackie? Where's Jackie at? Oh, she's not here? Oh, what happened to her? Even though, officially in the letterhead that he never wrote, they were congratulating her on all of her great success and things like that. So, it is what it is.
I'd like to add.
Go for it.
Gas is officially $1.41 higher now than when Joe Biden took office. And you can blame that on whoever you want. Putin, the cat, whatever.
Corn Pop. Corn Pop, he was a bad dude, and he ran some bad boys. 2 more breaking updates that in the last hour. Vermont added an amendment to the state's constitution that makes abortion a constitutional right in their state. And the vote comes after Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision, which ultimately was a good legal and, in my view, moral decision. But like I said, it's to the states. And as you can see in some states, they're going to say, yeah, we want to be able to kill babies in utero. Now, I'm going to be a little bit curious as to see where they draw the lines on that. If they're just going to say wholesale abortion at any time, where are we talking? We're talking first trimester, second trimester, as the science progresses. Because now, you can tell if you're pregnant, a couple weeks.
Honestly, I think if it was up to them, they would terminate up to 99 years old. I don't think they really care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also we're talking about when people talk about viability. It's actually a moot argument because where do you think viability is better, in downtown New York City or in a rural Alabama, clinic? Like viability is completely dependent upon the technology and the training of the staff wielding that technology. It has nothing to do. It's not a scientific metric. It has nothing to do with, when the baby can feel, when there's a heartbeat, if they can feel pain. Like we all know these things happen in the first trimester, which then begs the question. It's like, why not err on the side of life until technology catches up to the point where, and I'm just making a secular argument here, like wait until the technology catches up to the point when you can know these things. And what's funny is as technology progresses in that direction, more and more we find that what the left would love to call fetuses are very much so people, no matter how young they are, whether they are just like the size of a jujube, they are still very much like feeling pain. They're growing organs. They have neurons, like all these things that the left love to say, believe science. Well, as the science comes out, turns out it's actually killing a person. Yeah. And and that's a lot of that is my personal. It goes along with the way I personally believe, and I'm also obviously slanting it towards that. But a lot of it's rooted in truth, and so I'm going to get off of that. Thanks a lot, Vermont. Last thing, LA County sent out an erroneous flash flood warning earlier today before the polls had closed, telling people not to travel. The notification was not supposed to go to the whole county and was redacted. It's a dirty, dirty trick.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's funny, and I've said this quite a few times on my show. The framers of the United States were geniuses, that they looked 260, 300 years into the future, and they built the Constitution, and they built everything that we live off of, you know, that keeps us safe today. The Supreme Court, the Electoral College, you know, so we can't be overrun by these cities of the way these rat nests of the way people think that change the whole structure of the whole entire country. It's amazing that they did it, you know, 300 years ago, and they made it happen.
Yeah, better men than us, and we stand on the shoulders of giants. And truthfully, to try to think how they thought, to try to think of what they were thinking of at the time. To have self-government is such a crazy, and I always hate hearing people say, "Oh, the great American experiment." It's such an experiment. It's like, no, they saw what wasn't working, and they saw what would become communism, what would become fascism. Both are just different branches of the same tree of collectivism, and said, "Hey, what if we just made everything kind of about voluntary individualism?" And it's like, ooh, that's an interesting concept. Instead of compulsory collectivism, the very first triumph in America on its soil, what we know today as the United States, on its soil was the triumph over socialism. Okay, the settlers in the see, now I'm losing every single name and reference. The first settlers came and they had a socialist commune. And they started to die. They started to fail. The crops started to fail because as soon as they said, yeah, you get your rations no matter whether Bob grows corn and Jedediah makes milk. You know, it doesn't matter. You all get your rations. But then when the rations run out, you know, the governor comes in, and I can't remember his name, but he says, "Hey, okay, you're in charge of the corn. You sell your corn, and you sell for what you think it's worth." And that's actually where Thanksgiving comes into the fray, since we're in that season. That's where Thanksgiving comes into it, because the bounty that came from voluntary individualism and capitalism actually brought the natives and the settlers together for a feast. Isn't that so beautiful? That even at the very beginning of America, socialism was proven wrong, and capitalism was proven right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll drink to that.
Amen.
Well, I am not sure if we're going to get any more live updates in the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. But DeSantis obviously won.
You wiped the floor.
Abbott in Texas won, obviously. Let's see.
See that. Last time I saw it was
1.4 million votes with 88% of the votes counted. That's a 30,000 vote win, which is big in Florida. Because there's so many people in Florida. It's ridiculous. Now, it might seem slim, but you get a lot of transplants in Florida, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, New York lost an electoral vote. Where do you think those people moved to? Just saying.
2 places, honestly. It was Texas and Florida.
Yeah, Texas and Florida. By the way, I don't know if you saw this on Epic Times or not, but the people that did the census actually undercounted which would have given Florida another electoral vote.
Is that right?
Oopsie, we undercounted the census, and there's no legal recourse, and you're just gonna have to wait 10 years.
Yeah.
So in 9 years, well, that's not true. It's 2022. So in 8 years, Florida will get another electoral vote automatically because they recounted. And probably they're going to get 2. Tennessee's going to get 1, almost guaranteed. For such a small state, we're getting so many people, man. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Tennessee's beautiful. I love running through Tennessee. Coming that passing through Cincinnati, hitting the Kentucky line, just heading straight to Tennessee, driving through like Knoxville and Nashville and all that stuff. It's good. It's good driving. Whenever we had those wells down in Starr County, when I lived up here, I drove that drive 40 times from Buffalo, New York, Niagara Falls area to Starr County, Texas.
Goodness gracious.
Really, it's brutal, but yeah.
I'm thinking, let's see. It looks like we're winning in the House, which is nice. It's like 122 to 127 to 86. Hey, look, my governor results are coming up.
Are they populating? Because I see
you're gonna have to click. Yeah, the numbers aren't populating, but the states are, and you can click. So governor, obviously Abbott wins 51% to 47. We said that earlier. And Ohio, staying Republican. What's up? All the states you would consider, obviously Bill Lee here in Tennessee, they already declared him the winner.
And you're on Epic Times?
Yeah, Epic Times.
Because I got Texas, only 18% of the votes in.
Really?
Yep. Texas, 51.82 for Abbott.
It won't tell me the percentage of the vote. I see it's so buggy right now because I'm sure they're getting just absolutely inundated with data.
Yeah.
So in the House, the only places that are staying, wow. The only places that are staying blue right now are like deep south near Laredo, obviously. But it looks like even around Dallas and Fort Worth are turning red districts, man. Which is surprising. Very surprising. Yeah, I'm getting no data on the percentages, but I can click on the region for the House. Yeah, so the Democrats right now are losing 2 seats in the House, and Republicans are gaining those 2 seats. So right now, everybody that already had a seat previously, other than those 2, and let's see if there's any runoffs. Right now, no runoffs. So.
About Maya Flores. You heard that story?
I have not.
In Corpus Christi district in South Texas.
Oh man, that's my stomping grounds.
She was the one that so she got elected in a general runoff, right? It was earlier in the year. And so she's on the podium with Pelosi, and Pelosi's elbowing her daughter. Her daughter is like 4 years old. Pelosi's elbowing her daughter on the podium. I mean, it was, dude, I gotta get that. I gotta find that. That was so funny.
So she's just like, oh, okay. I think I remember hearing the story.
Oh yeah.
But I don't.
It was national news for, 18 minutes until Pelosi killed it, Pelosi.
Just like they got what's that guy, DePappy? They got that dude, on federal attempted murder charges.
That I don't know what to say to that. That was something else. This is daughter.
I'm just saying, every time I have, a drug addicted hippie in my house, I've never been hit by a hammer.
Not to mention, I mean, so this is the problem with crazy things that happen in our history. If you're going from JFK to any other thing that you want to talk about, right? It's the consistent lack of inconsistencies in the story. So this isn't any different. You have a consistent lack of inconsistencies in the story. And all we want is just consistent information, because we know that none of the things they're saying can come true. And you're trying to tell people that have been working with their hands their whole life, hey, this is what happened. Like, no, I don't keep hammers on me while I'm just walking around my house. So, both
I can see it though. Like, I can see even if they just came out and were like, hey, guy broke in, Paul is like trying to de-escalate this drug-addled, completely insane guy. And he's talking with him and he's like, oh yeah, you're my friend. We're friends. Yeah, no problem. Calls 911. He's like, hey, this guy's here. Yeah, his name's David. he's my friend. Like, he's like looking at him. Like, if they went out and said that this is the story, I would believe it, because then the cops come and he goes, no. Yeah, he's totally cool. And he's like winking at him, like, get him. And then he gets hit over the head with a hammer. Like, that version of the story makes sense. But they went so far to be like, no. Can't say any of that. He's got to be a MAGA terrorist, just like the MAGA bomber. Remember the MAGA bomber?
Oh, yeah.
That deranged homeless guy with hair plugs that they tried to call the MAGA bomber? Yeah, for sure. Why do you think that's not, why do you think people don't remember that guy? Oh, because he's a lifelong Democrat. That's why.
Yeah. And he had, like 15 channels, 15 videos on YouTube on how much he just hated everyone. He just wanted to go shoot somebody. It was once again, lack of consistent inconsistencies.
Some of us only have 10 subscribers on YouTube. I'm just saying.
We're gonna get you there, my friend.
We're gonna change this. So I realize that it's getting pretty close to lid. Getting pretty close to put lid. You're
gonna get it.
Listen here, Jack. Here's the deal. Not a joke.
So just they died one time in Iraq, and you're flying an airplane. And
no, your one of your sons was copulating with your other son's wife while he was dying in a hospital bed. Like, yeah, that tracks. That guy is an energy expert. I see why your one son's wife would go with him, because he's just such an energy expert. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's just the way I look at it. That's the way I'm attracted to, natural gas energy experts myself, personally.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at you.
I got it.
Can you see the wink?
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Okay, just making sure.
I have friends that I grew up with in Pennsylvania that ask me all the time, when they get in arguments with locals, local people that do taxes and they do, work at McDonald's and Burger King and Subway, and the people at Subway, want to pipe in on social media and, explore their keyboard warrior-ness. And he always jumps in and he says, hey, is what they're saying right? And he just tags me, and then I come in and, mop them up and basically say, if you don't know, just shut up,
Yeah.
If you don't know, just shut up. I don't go to McDonald's and tell you how to flip burgers, It really comes down to that. Between you and me, between the two of us, I'm the only one that's negotiated an oil refinery contract. So, let's just keep it.
Oh God, I that's a really funny story. Actually, I was at my buddy's house over by UNT, University of North Texas, and we went to a bar, and me and my buddy we're conservative guys. We're both married, both drank a little bit too much. We're going to sleep in the car.
I love
but there was the college girls, they're 22. We're like 29. Neither one of us went to college. And one of them started to be like, oh, they drill for oil and it's like, it kills the environment, you know? And I was like, oh, really? I was like, did you know that most hydraulic fracturing sites that just are reclaimed by nature? She's like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's actually like the cleanest, greenest way to actually get energy.
Yep.
What are you talking about? I'm like, no, yeah, even if you take the carbon footprint of all of the diesel engines that are running, all of the energy that they're getting out of it kind of counteracts that. Like if you think about like what they're producing in plastics and all of the things that they're doing with the pipeline, like the movement of all of this natural gas, all the, like you said, the wet gas, the dry gas, all the oil, all of that stuff is kind of it's worth it because it balances out.
Yep.
It's like because we're getting oil out of rocks. And they just didn't understand it. And they got into an argument. And then like the bouncer came over and was like, are these guys bothering you? You're just like, what? What's the problem? I thought this was America.
The South Park episode when these
legitimately, like Randy Marsh, I was like, oh, well, we got a problem. I'm like, I actually work on a frack crew. What now? And my buddy's like, no, don't. That's like not the flex. That's not the flex you think it is, bro. Like, these people don't care. They're all lefties, man.
Oh man. Okay, so my in-laws completely, half my in-laws completely bleeding liberal, boogers, sniffers, all the whole 9 yards. So a few years ago, we were at I don't remember, some kind of it was a Christmas party or something. Anyway, so my wife's cousin, she had a baby daddy with a plastic surgeon, a doctor who is a plastic surgeon. There we go. And they live in DC. Okay, so we had a discussion. So he very pompous and flippant and he's just a tough guy to talk to. Anyway, so he's like, so I heard you own oil wells. I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, so I heard you've been on frack sites before. Like, yeah, been on a few.
More than one.
He's like, those are really bad for the environment. I'm like, okay, let's do this. I'll play the game. So why? Just try me. Well, you understand that the chemicals they put into the ground, get into the water, and I'm like, okay.
Which ones? First of all, which chemicals, and what do you mean by in the water?
Well,
sorry.
So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just say it does. Let's just say everything you're saying is true. Do you know the difference? Because when you drill a well, you use a scientific engineering law, right? In your house, you have a scientific law for electricity. What law is that? He's like, I don't know. Oh, like, well, that's Ohm's law. And if you have an electrician that doesn't quite get Ohm's law, you're gonna have a fire, and your house is gonna burn down. Look at all the houses in the whole entire world, and look at statistics, that statistically you're going to have a house that's going to not be that somebody did not follow the law correctly, and they shorted something to ground and they burnt the house down. Okay, so let's take this crazy way of thinking, scientific laws and all, and not just being emotional and rash. So let's just take this crazy way of thinking and apply it to oil wells. They use Darcy's law. Darcy's law, if you do not respect Darcy's law and you don't cement the casing incorrectly, it's going to bleed into the surface, and you're going to get at some point a mixture of whatever you're pumping into the hole, whatever is coming up into the hole, and if you pass a water zone, those liquids are going to flow into the water zone. It's just like house burning down. It's the same principle. And you would think that I got to think of a liberal thing that makes them mad. You would think I had a AR-15 with a 30-round magazine. I mean, the guy
oh, you mean like a ghost gun with their 30-round clip?
Oh man, you would think he lost his mind, man. He got so mad at me.
I mean, also you want to talk about like diffusion, like from high concentration to low concentration. Okay, as soon as you take the pressure off the well, what's going to happen? Oh, if the groundwater is now in my well, so that's a casing issue. So you cap it off, you move on to the next one. Totally fine. Like these things they're not contaminating the groundwater in people's cities. We are out in the middle of nowhere, hitting the water table, which is just naturally where the rain manages to go into whatever reservoir it's moving to the next. And none of it's drinking water.
Oh yeah.
99.999% of the water table, if it ever is contaminated, which it almost never is in the middle of nowhere. And nobody's drilling water wells out in Cotulla, Texas. So you need to shut your mouth, because you can shut your mouth and get educated. I tell people, become literate before speaking, and then removing all doubt that you are dumb, and a lot of bad words, dumb.
it's funny because when I first decided to be an operator and chase some oil wells, people with zero hydrocarbons on their lease just because they had oil, just because they had royalty rights,
Right.
Below 5,000 feet. They're like, yeah, we want $800,000. We want, $1.5 million. I'm like, what? What are you doing? You don't even have anything. I just need your land just to pass from point A to point B.
I need to drive across through three cattle guards. That's it. I just need to cross. That's it.
That's what I hated. I loved it when it was good, but man, I hated it when it was bad, and that's what I hated most of all. Not to mention when so you hand somebody a royalty check of, I don't know, $5,500, right?
Okay.
That's when oil was $70 a barrel, and then you come full circle and oil is $25 a barrel, and you hand them a $700 check, and they're just calling lawyers, and man, that I don't miss that either. Like, you do know it is a market-based commodity, right? I mean,
it's supposedly, and I say supposedly, one of the very last commodities that's actually sold on a free market. Like, cattle is not sold on a free market anymore. Chicken's not sold on a free market. Oil is one of the few things that, because of the Saudis, is sold on an open free market, which we're seeing the downside of when we let the Saudis tell us what we're going to do instead of being independent like we were 2 years ago. And I know the polls have closed, but if you can vote 7 more times for Republican, you should definitely not do that. It's against the law. Yeah, I said it. That's what I said. Well, you know what, man? It was good to watch the election results kind of close out with you. I mean, it looks like we're going to be in the dark till Friday in some of these places, obviously. Looking at the representatives map, it looks a lot like 2020. It looks like a lot like 2016. All your population centers are blue. The rest of the country is red. And honestly, a lot of population centers like Nashville, like Louisville, like Lexington, like Dallas, are more red than I thought they would be. Louisiana, almost all red. Let's take one last look in. Louisiana has District 4. Mike Johnson wins. Gubernatorial. Oh, no. It wants to show everything. Goodness gracious. So Louisiana is still leaning red in almost all its districts, which is a good thing for crime. But I don't think we're going to see anything more tonight. I think it's going to be days. It's going to be in the next days and weeks, the coming moments. We'll see the news start trickling out. We'll see where all the chicanery or fortification has happened. I didn't want to say the F word. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
But thank you so much for having me on. I know it's kind of like a duel. We're doing both at the same time, but thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for everything you did. We couldn't have done this without you. You're definitely. I've said it before. You're smart, and it's just great to be around you, man.
You're talking about I'm smart. You're the smart one.
Oh,
I'm dead serious. Like, you guys don't even understand. Like before we were in the green room, he was like, "Oh my God, you have like 10 YouTube subscribers." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing."
Brother, I love you, Randall. You're all right.
Dude, I love you too. So, audience on both sides, the daily round, right? Say it again.
Weekly round.
Golly gee, do you do it daily or do you do it weekly? Is it a weekly round or is it a daily round?
I do weekly, but the Veterans Day we've been doing daily.
You have been doing daily. Okay, so we have to. I am so sorry. I apologize. Dude. Weekly round, tavern talk. We have the first Voltron meetup.
Amen.
And in the tavern we drink. So in salutations, we have a parting drink for you guys. Midterms aren't over, obviously, because they're still printing the votes and all that other stuff. And goodbye. Thank you.
Everyone that's around, we're going to be doing a little something on Thursday for the veterans' birthday, or for the Marine Corps birthday. So,
Hayat.
Come on. Ooh, mother Ra.
Mother Chesty Ra.
Mother Chesty. 10-4, brother. You take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.